everyone, my name is Kayla. I have a Bachelor of Health Science Naturopathy and I'm a naturopath, Kayla the Nurturing Naturopath. Welcome to my podcast awareness. And today I have Charly from the QMEB Foundation joining me today. Hi, Charly, how are you?
Hi, Kayla. Yeah, good. Thank you. Thanks for having me here today.
No worries. Thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. Could you please tell us what exactly is the QEB Foundation?
Yeah, absolutely. So the QREB Foundation is a not-for-profit organisation. We're based in Australia with the head office in Melbourne. We've got a very clear mission to search for a cure for EB, which is epidermolysis bullosa. It's a bit of a mouthful. And it's shortened to EB, which is much easier to remember. EB is referred to as the worst disease that you've never heard of. It's extremely rare, so not many people do know what it is, but it's a deliberating, devastating condition, which causes really fragile skin. It causes it to blister and tear at the slightest touch. So we are just a foundation, small grassroots charity looking to raise as much money as possible and fund research projects all over the world that are ultimately searching for a cure or better treatments that are going to better the lives of those living with EB.
Amazing. That's so good. And what is your history?
History. So we are a foundation that was established by, I guess, a gentleman who had a little girl with EB. So a very personal connection. He'd never heard of it before, had no idea what it was, and then had this daughter, and the skin was falling off of her from day one. They found out that she had EB, had a look at what support networks were out there for people living with EB, and there is a wonderful charity called Deborah who provide bandages and support for individuals. However, there was no one investing in research to try and cure this disease, because when he heard there was no cure, he was like, oh my goodness, what are we going to do? We need to do something. So he and a couple of his close mates held a couple of small events. We then got some really big philanthropists involved, and it kind of grew from there, really. It's still a small charity, but we have really, really big goals, and we hold several events, which all started from little Tilly, who was born. So the first event ever was Tough Tilly. We still run that event annually, Tough Tilly Day in January. But that event has grown from, a couple of people to this year we're expecting about 1,500 people to attend. So it's going to be really, really great. Now, Tilly is now 14 and she speaks at a lot of our events. She's a young lady now, but her parents and all her family friends have really, made this what it is, meaning that we've been able to donate over $7 million to research now, which is fantastic.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And what exactly is EB? You were saying it's the skin blistering and then like come falling off.
Yeah, so EB is a group of rare genetic skin disorders. Essentially, it's when there's the protein is missing in their skin. This protein is the glue that holds your skin down. So that's missing from their body. So even at the slightest touch, their skin can fall off. So that means hugging your baby, picking your baby up, just wearing clothes, putting shoes on. It can create friction, makes the skin fall off, and then blisters to occur. Now, these blisters and wounds are like really painful. The blisters have to be lanced every day, so they have to pop the blisters. And then they're often bathed in either bleach or vinegar to try and stop them getting infected. Some of the worser cases have to be bandaged to cover up their wounds. Now, bandaging can take anywhere between about 2 hours a day, 2 to 3 hours a day, and they sometimes have to do that twice a day. In the worst forms, EB can attack also the insides. So they get like swallowing food can cause blisters and friction and wounds in the esophagus. And then when the skin repairs itself, it kind of closes over. So they have to have surgery to cut open their esophagus, which is pretty horrendous, as you can imagine. And often scarring can occur on the eyes as well. So some of these children who have the worst form of it sometimes have to can't open their eyes. And if you think about it, when you've got bandages everywhere, sometimes you can't move and you're in a wheelchair. A lot of the kids kind of resort to things like iPads for entertainment, watching TV and things like that. So when they get the scarring in their eyes as well and they can't see, that's kind of like everything gone for them, So it can be mild or it can be very severe. In the most severe cases, they probably live to about 3 months old. In the less severe cases, they can grow up and have like a reasonably normal life until they're about 50, but they are susceptible to skin cancer, and 99% of the cases do turn into cancer. So it's really not a great disease, and that's why we need to get a cure.
Yeah, and I think people sort of take that for granted, sort of being able to pick up and hold your baby, which, you should be able to do, want to do, but you're hurt, it's not your fault, but they're hurting and things.
Absolutely, yeah, that's the biggest thing. So obviously babies cry when they're in pain or they can't communicate, but these babies are screaming. And if you have blisters on your couple of month old baby and you're having to pop the blisters, and even when they become toddlers and they can start speaking and they're like, Mom, please don't do it, but you have to, because otherwise the repercussions are just not good. So it's a really, really tough situation, I think, for not just for the kid, but the families or the carers as well. And if they have siblings, it's, a horrible thing to see your younger sibling, having to go through that much pain every day. Most of the kids spend most of their life on morphine just to get through the pain.
And then are there different types of EB? And if so, what are they?
Yeah, so there's several different types of EB, but there's 4 main ones. So simplex is the milder one. That generally affects the hands, the feet, and the face, but it does affect other areas too. Then there's dystrophic EB, which is the one that causes like a lot of scarring, and it's a bit deeper in the skin, so it's kind of everywhere. There's junctional, which is can affect the organs. So that one's really, really like a severe one. And then the last one is Kindler syndrome, and that affects both the inside and the outside. And they're the ones who generally don't survive past the 3-month mark. That's the worst one. And I know this sounds horrific, but a lot of people say it's actually kind of the better one, because although you don't survive past 3 months, you don't have a lifetime of suffering that, and pain that goes with it. Either way, devastating for everybody involved. But yeah, it's really, the pain is the biggest part in all of these. And that's a lot of the drugs that we would really like to develop to help, I guess, better the lives for these patients, people living with EB, is to minimize the pain. And a lot of them find it very itchy as well. So yeah, itch and pain are like 2 of the biggest things treatment-wise that we do look at trying to help them with.
Amazing. And how is EB inherited?
So EB is a genetic disorder, so it's generally passed down through the families. If they've got a dominant form of EB, that means that they will 100%, or the parents have a dominant gene, then they're going to 100% have it. Or if they've got recessive, then only one of the parents need to carry the gene to be able to get it. Generally, a lot of times, parents don't know that they're a carrier. It's not part of the normal testing before you get pregnant that they would do. I believe if you go through IVF, this is one of the things that they do test for, because they don't want to match you with a donor who has, if you both have the gene. So for kind of planned parentage, you might get tested, but if not, that's generally how most of these cases have come about to now. It's because one parent has been a carrier and had no idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's how Tilly came about, and that's where it started. One of the parents was carrier, one wasn't. They'd never heard of it before. Generally, if you're born with EB and you've got the dominant form and your child is going to get it, you kind of can prepare for it, or you can plan accordingly and decide whether you want to bring that into the future or look for other options should you want to have children.
Makes sense, definitely. And how common is EB?
EB is rare. It's very rare. So it's estimated in Australia that around 1 in 30,000 births are affected by EB. Globally, there's around 500,000 people living with EB. And here in Australia, we estimate about 1,000 people have EB. However, it's likely that there's more. Obviously, Australia being so big, there's a lot of rural places which might not, their doctors and nurses might not know to be able to say that they've got EB. You know, there's probably not enough education. A lot of the doctors and nurses don't know or still don't know what EB is or how to deal with it. So we really have to make educated guesses. But from what we know from the major capital cities, we think there's about 1,000 children. But there's that can increase and is likely to increase. And these are the live numbers. So, like, for example, last year, I think there was about 6 or 7 babies born with EB and 6 of them died. So, you know, yeah, there's probably more children born with it than what we've got in Australia right now.
Makes sense. And I was going to ask about the symptoms, but you said the main thing is the itchiness and the pain, and then I guess it depends on the individual and what type of EB they have as well.
Yeah, it does. I guess the biggest symptoms is the fact that they've got really fragile skin. So it blisters and tears very easily, sometimes at the slightest touch. I guess as they grow up and they go through school, you know, running and playing with the kids on the playground, like, you know, they can't go down the slides, like, you know, bumping into each other. You just got to be really, really careful. Those symptoms are kind of like the biggest one. That's how they start, that little tear or that little blister that they've got, but then they can turn into giant wounds. And now these wounds don't really heal, and then it's the scarring. So the scarring is, really bad for them as well. And then I guess depending on the severity, if you're bandaged up, obviously that's another symptom of it. But it can really attack your internal organs, your eyes. You have to kind of bandage your whole body. A lot of kids are wheelchair bound because they can't actually walk anymore. You know, it really is, parents wouldn't be able to go to work. Like, they need full-time care to be able to manage a child with EB.
Yeah, so it's not just the physical, it's also the emotional and the mental, and then it's like widespread, like you said, it's the families and the friends as well.
Yeah, so I met a child with really severe EB. Now her bandages take 4 hours a day. She has to have an acid bath. She sits in a wheelchair. Some days she has to close her eyes for days because her eyes are too sore, and to stop the blinking causing the friction to cause scarring. And she had the operation to cut her throat, so she was able to still breathe and eat and things like that. You know, and her parents try and give her the most normal life and take her to school. But then mentally, it's draining. She doesn't want to go to school because she can't do everything that everybody else does. You know, their brain is very switched on. She's a really intelligent girl, and she can probably, you know, is up there on the top of the class, but she doesn't want to go. She just sees what everybody else is doing and what she can. So it really does take a toll on their emotions and their mental health as well. And then obviously the parents' mental health is terrible because they feel guilty, and you know, they want their child to, you know, grow up normal, or like, you know, with the ability to be able to play and be like everybody else in the playground. Especially in most cases they have siblings. So you know, their siblings are there just doing everything like, like any other child would. And you've got one child who's, wheelchair bound and doesn't have that freedom, but has the cognitive ability to know what's going on around them. So, yeah,
We had
pretty sure. Yeah.
And like you were saying, is treatment the baths and the bandages?
Yeah, so at the moment, there's obviously no cure for EB. Treatment is basically strong pain medication to get them through, daily wound care, so pop in the blisters and bandaging if needed, or sitting in acid baths. There is one treatment that has been approved in the USA, and it's a cream called VVAC, and you can rub it onto a wound, but only a small space of skin. It needs to be applied once a week, and for a year's worth of treatment for one child costs $500,000. Therefore, it's just too expensive, I guess, to roll out as there's a few people going through the treatment and trial in it in the US, but we wouldn't be able to have it approved over here in Australia until we can make it more cost viable. Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And how many clinical trials are there sort of at the moment for EB?
Yeah, so when we actually started QEB, when Tilly was born, there was one clinical trial. There's now nearly 50 across the world, so it's definitely increasing. Now, obviously, with medical research, and clinical trials, some are successful and some aren't. Some get are successful in the lab and then successful in mice or rats, whatever they tested on, or primates. But when it comes to humans, that's a whole different kettle of fish. So, although there is a lot of trials now, and we are seeing some really great success and some great promise, because the disease is so rare, we can't mass market it. So a lot of pharmaceutical companies can't make the treatment cost effective for approvals. So there's a lot of work being done on not only making it safe for humans, but also cost effective so that it can be supplied around the world. And that's a couple of our focuses. Obviously, we want to make the treatment available for everybody who has EB. That's obviously ultimately the goal. But the one thing that we can do is look at what other diseases these treatments can cure. So, for example, when the esophagus is being attacked, we can create like the drug into an inhaler, and then they inhale the drug and it heals. But that drug also can help people who have severe lung conditions.
Yes.
So, because then there's more people available to buy that treatment, the cost then comes down because we can market it or mass market it, if you like. So, we're just looking at what we can cross over, or looking at drugs that are already approved and how we can repurpose them to fit with children who have EB.
Amazing. That's good. And what events do you have? I know you said it started with Tough Tilly Day, and what else sort of is going on?
Yeah. So Tough Tilly Day is an annual event. It's a bit like a family fun day by the river in Echuca. It's a bit of a festival. We have live music, kids entertainment. It's just a really good fun day out. We have a ball once a year called the Star Ball. We previously have done that in partnership with Starlight Foundation. And we kind of co-host that event, which is really great. We have a couple of business lunches. As I mentioned, we've got quite a few philanthropists and well-known businessmen backing this organization. So they come and run the event for us, if you like, where they kind of share their experiences, and we get, business-driven people to come to like a networking event, but then we can fundraise on the side of that as well. We have a ladies' lunch once a year. We actually just had the last one on Friday, and it's just an awesome day where all the girls get together. We have some really great entertainment, a really nice lunch, and they have the opportunity to, network with like-minded people, as well as bid in the auction, which is specific kind of to that demographic, rather than our larger events. It kind of can be a little bit different. In reverse, we have a golf day as well. So the boys then get together and they do the golf day. Don't get me wrong, there is girls who play as well, and everybody's welcome. And the same thing, they have a round of golf, and then there's some fundraising activities that happens. There last year it was hosted by Peter Hellier, which was pretty cool. He came along and played some golf. Not sure how well he did, but he did have a great day. What other events? We have so many. That's pretty much the main ones. And then we hold another ball biannually, and that one's called the Cotton Ball. And I guess that's kind of like our signature event. It's a really, really lovely event. We held it in the Forum last time in Melbourne, which is an awesome venue. It's a really large event, so it's probably the most amount of people that come. We all sit down, have a nice dinner. We have live music. We get a couple of cars given to us to auction off. So we drive them into the arena. It's pretty cool.
Cool. There's a lot of cool events going on. Amazing. And how can people support you? Obviously, they can come to those different days and events you have. Are there any other ways they can support you?
Yeah, absolutely. So we would love people to support us on our social media. We currently have just restarted our Instagram, so we're a little bit slow on followers there. So it's at QEB Foundation. And our Facebook, we advertise all of our events through there. We obviously can take donations. We love donations. Corporate partners, we love corporate partners. Our website is qeb.org.au. People can jump on there and become a supporter in terms of regular giving, one-off donation, run a marathon for us. So if you're that ambitious, or like maybe hold a morning tea, or any kind of event that you would like to hold, any support goes such a long way. Medical research is expensive, and it's really hard to comprehend how your $20 is going to make a difference. But if everybody chips in $20, it does make a massive difference, and it really does go a long way. So if you're not in a financial position to support it, which times are tough at the moment, and that's understandable, like us on our social media, share our posts. Awareness is one of the major things that we want to get out there, because as I said, it is the worst disease that nobody's heard of. So even if we can share it and get our name out there, and someone's learned what EB is, that's a massive thing for us.
Yeah, so true, exactly. Is there anything you wanted to recap or talk about that you feel like we haven't spoken about?
I think we've covered a lot, but I would just say, for anyone who does listen, if this is the first time you've heard about EB, just take a moment to learn a bit more about it, tell someone about it, and I think maybe as well it can help make us more considerate. Every child with EB, the wounds and the blisters are kind of on the outside of their skins. A lot of the time it's on their face, their hands, their feet. So these kids go to school, and not only are they living with that and the pain every single day, but they often get bullied as well. Kids can be cruel. It's part of, I guess, growing up, that we do go through this, and we do wish that every child was nice, but just educating our children that if they see something out there, then there's probably something behind that. And it's really, just to raise awareness so that we can reduce their mental pain as well as their physical pain.
Yeah,
in addition, the only other thing I'd say is we don't get any government funding because the disease is so rare. So it does lack the funding or resources that other diseases do get. That are more well known. So the more people who know about EB, the more awareness we get, the bigger, the more we make it, raise our voice. That will make a massive difference for funding, treatments, people looking into trying to find a cure.
Yeah, and like you said, awareness and the donations as well help, and teaching your child to be kind. If they do see a child with EB, because that's one thing that I guess we can control in their world is them not being bullied. So that's not one extra thing that they have to suffer with.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, because not only can they not participate in everything that everybody else is doing at school, things like extra school activities like playing football or, going to hang at the park with your mates. You can't do that. You might have to be at home and sat in an acid bath and, make sure that nobody's banging into you. And then the time that they do have at school is, they're being called names and being picked on. It's really, yeah, it's not a very pleasant situation for them to be in. So yeah, it's just awareness. I think there is a huge lack of awareness. I'm not going to lie, I didn't even know about it before I started here. And I think that there's still so much more for me to learn. And every condition or every person with EB is unique because it's as a result as a fault in their DNA, if you like. So it really is. Yeah, everybody needs a tailored treatment and something a little bit different. So there's no one shoe fits all here. So, it's just a continual learning curve. And if everybody can jump on, the bandwagon and learn with us, then, that's all we can ask.
Yeah, exactly right. And like you were saying, for further information, should people go to your website and your Facebook page and your Instagram?
Yeah, absolutely. So on our website, you can find all about EB. You can hear about or see what trials are being done, the research that we're investing in, how to get involved and learn more and make donations. And then our social media pages. Keep guys up to date with anything exciting that's going on, as well as all of our events. And we really, encourage people to come along to our events because they are fantastic. They are a lot of fun. Obviously, we are always there for a reason, which is to raise money and awareness. But yeah, they just are there for a great family participation. Everything we try and do is kind of family orientated and inclusive.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much for joining me today, making us more aware about QEB, a foundation. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. I hope that this helps us get our word out there, and a couple of people have learned something new today.
Thank you so much. And thank you to everyone for listening. Take care and bye bye.